Come in and shut the day behind you. You made it. Through all of it, you made it, and now you get to rest. That's the reward, and it's yours. Feel the weight of the blankets. Feel how still the room is. Somewhere far off, the rain is falling on rooftops and empty streets, and it has nothing to do with you, and that is the loveliest part. Let it blur into the background, and let me tell you a tale. In a small cottage at the edge of a wheat field, where the warm sun dipped into the horizon and painted the sky with hues of gold and pink, there lived an old woman named Alara, who spent her days tending to the land, coaxing life from the earth as surely as the plants grew tall and strong under her gentle touch. The cottage itself was a haven, its stone walls infused with the scent of wildflowers, and the soft creaks of its wooden beams, a lullaby in the stillness of evening. In the evenings, Alara would sit on the porch, surrounded by the rustling wheat, watching as the stars began to twinkle like diamonds scattered across the velvet sky, and she'd listen to the whispers of the wind, which carried secrets from far-off places but spoke only softly in hushed tones that lulled her into a state of peaceful reverie. The wheat field, too, held secrets, ancient stories etched into its golden stalks, whispers of long-forgotten harvest moons and the magic that coursed through the land like an underground river. Alara knew these stories, for she'd spent her life learning from the earth, drinking in the wisdom of its seasons, and as the nights drew in, she felt the weight of those secrets settle upon her, like a gentle rain on parched soil. In this quiet place, time itself seemed to slow, allowing Alara to grasp it like a handful of sand, soft, fleeting, yet precious, as the moon rose high and the world grew dark, but not in a way that was ever frightening, for here darkness was merely another facet of the world's intricate design. As she breathed in the scent of night-blooming flowers, Alara felt her eyelids growing heavy, her breathing slowing to match the pace of the crickets chirping, and her thoughts drifted like clouds across a summer sky, until finally, as the last wisps of light disappeared beyond the horizon, Alara's eyes closed, her body relaxed, and she let go of all worry and care, surrendering herself to the soft, endless expanse of sleep. In the quiet harbor where the boats went to sleep, the sun had set behind the hills, casting a warm orange glow over the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers that seemed to thrive in the soft mist that rolled in every evening, and the sound of crickets provided a soothing background, hum like 1,000 tiny drums beating out a lullaby. Among the boats, some were tall and sleek, their sails folded neatly against their masts, while others were smaller and more sturdy, their wooden hulls worn smooth by years of gentle rocking in the harbor's calm waters. As night began to fall, the stars started to twinkle above, like diamonds scattered across a dark blue velvet cloth, and the moon, now a silver crescent in the sky, cast a path of light across the water, illuminating the boats as they slept peacefully, their crews' dreams no doubt filled with the endless stories of the sea. And as the darkness deepened, a soft breeze began to stir, carrying on its gentle sighs the whispers of the harbor's secrets, tales of ships that had sailed in and out through the centuries, of treasures hidden beneath the waves, and of the mythical creatures said to roam the depths, their glowing scales shining like lanterns in the darkness. But as the night wore on, the wind died down, and the harbor grew quiet once more, except for the occasional creaking of a boat's hull or the soft lapping of the water against its sides, sounds that blended together to create a symphony of peaceful slumber, a gentle rocking motion that seemed to match the beat of one's own heart. And as you listen now, feel your eyelids growing heavy, your breathing slowing down, and your thoughts drifting away on the tide. In a house with walls that whispered secrets in the night, there stood an attic that had been left untouched for years, its treasures scattered like stars across a velvet expanse of old trunks and forgotten dreams. Dust motes danced in the faint moonlight that seeped through the grimy windows, their delicate steps weaving a gentle melody that seemed to match the beat of a child's heartbeat, far off but growing louder with each passing moment. In this attic, where memories waited like sleeping flowers, a small wooden rocking horse leaned against an old cedar chest, its intricately carved mane a soft whisper of faded glory. Nearby, a porcelain doll lay cradled in her own tiny bed, her glassy eyes turned upward as if watching for the stars to come out and twinkle above. On another shelf, a collection of worn wooden blocks gathered like miniature sentinels, guarding secrets of childhood that had long since slipped into the past. The air was heavy with the scent of old books and forgotten stories, each one waiting patiently to be rediscovered, its words whispering promise of enchantment and delight. As the night deepened, a faint rustling began to stir, like the gentle stirring of leaves on an autumn breeze, as if the very toys themselves were coming alive, their wooden limbs stretching, their painted faces smoothing into soft smiles. The attic was awakening, slowly, quietly, its treasures rising from slumber like a dawn breaking over a peaceful landscape. And in this quiet, dreamlike atmosphere, it was easy to let one's thoughts drift, to surrender to the soothing melody of dust and memories, to let go of all worries and troubles, as the soft rocking motion of the wooden horse seemed to lull the world into a deep and restful sleep. So breathe deeply now, let your eyelids grow heavy. Feel your body relax, your breathing slow, as you sink deeper into the peaceful silence of this attic sanctuary. In a garden hidden from the world by a veil of trees, there bloomed a single patch of moonflowers that opened their delicate petals only when the night sky was at its fullest and the silver light poured down upon them like a gentle benediction. The gardener who tended to this enchanted place had long ago given up trying to cultivate other flowers alongside these rare and mystical blooms, for it seemed as though they fed on the very essence of the moon itself, their scent a sweet and heady perfume that wafted on the breeze only after sundown, when the shadows grew long and the world was at peace. The paths that wound through this lunar garden were paved with tiny stones, polished to a soft sheen by the nocturnal drips of dew, and as one wandered through the softly glowing pathways, it felt as though the very earth itself was exhaling its quiet contentment into the air, each step a gentle reminder that there existed in this world at least one place where time stood still and the passage of hours could be measured not by clocks or calendars, but by the slow and steady climb of the stars across the midnight sky. In the stillness that preceded dawn's arrival, the moonflowers reached their zenith, their delicate trumpets bursting open to reveal inner petals, a deep shade of indigo that glimmered like dark pools of water beneath the starlight, drawing all who entered into their tranquil realm with an irresistible siren call to pause and breathe in the sweet, intoxicating fragrance that had wafted across the garden like a soft sigh from some unseen heart. As the night gave way to morning's gradual awakening, the moonflowers began to close their petals once more, folding their beauty within themselves as the world around them stirred into a new day. But for those who had chanced upon this mystical place under the light of the full moon, its memory remained like a lingering whisper in the mind, beckoning them back to return and surrender once more to its enchantment. In a secluded mountain valley, where the air was crisp and clean, and snowflakes fell gently from a gray sky, there stood a small cabin that seemed to be wrapped in a soft white blanket. The fire crackled quietly inside, casting a warm glow on the rustic walls, as the first flakes of winter began to settle around it, like a million delicate fingers tracing intricate patterns on the windowsills and the branches of the surrounding trees. In this peaceful haven, a young woman named Amelia sat in her favorite chair by the fire, watching the snow fall through the panes, her eyes growing heavy with each passing moment as she listened to the soft hush of the flakes against the roof, the gentle creaking of the wooden beams, and the sweet scent of pine carried on the breeze. As the hours slipped away like grains of sand in an hourglass, Amelia's thoughts turned to memories of her childhood winters spent here with her grandmother, playing in the snowdrifts and listening to tales of ancient magic that dwelled deep within these mountains, where the trees whispered secrets to each other on the wind. As she breathed in the scents of pine and wood smoke, Amelia felt a deep sense of belonging to this place, as if the cabin itself was embracing her with its warmth and tranquility, holding her close like a loving mother, rocking her gently back and forth into the rhythm of the snowfall, until the softness of the flakes outside seemed to seep into her very bones, filling her with an overwhelming longing for rest, for stillness, for a return to the peaceful silence that lay just beyond the edge of wakefulness. As she settled deeper into her chair, Amelia felt her eyelids growing heavy, like the snowflakes gently lapping at the windowsills, and she knew it was time to let go, to surrender to the soft, enveloping darkness that beckoned from outside, drawing her down into its soothing depths, where dreams would whisper secrets in her ear, and the mountains themselves would cradle her safe until morning. In a tiny chapel nestled between two great hills, where the road winds lazily through fields of silver-green wheat that shimmered like moonlight in the fading light of day, weary travelers might stumble upon rest and refuge from their long journeys. The chapel's stone walls were weathered to a soft gray, worn smooth by time, and countless prayers whispered within its sacred space, and its high windows let in shafts of gold and pink as sunset surrendered to twilight. Inside, the air was still and quiet, filled with the scent of old incense and wood polish, and a single flickering candle cast eerie shadows on the walls as it cast light upon the pews where pilgrims and wanderers had long sat in contemplation. The chapel's patron saint, a kindly woman with eyes like dark pools and hair like silver threads, gazed out from her alcove above the altar, watching over those who sought solace within its peaceful precincts. And here, in this haven of tranquility, weary souls might lay their heads upon the soft cushions and listen to the gentle susurrations of the wind outside as it rustled through the wheat like a soothing lullaby, or drift off into dreamless sleep beneath the watchful eyes of the saint's patient gaze. For in this chapel, time itself seemed to slow its pace, allowing all who entered to unburden themselves of their troubles and trouble's weight, surrendering instead to the calming balm of peace that lay hidden like a treasure within these quiet stone walls. As the ferry slipped into the calm waters of the wide river, its engines dying down to a gentle hum, the passengers settled in for the long crossing ahead, cradled by the lapping waves against the hull and the soft creaking of the vessel's wooden frame, which seemed to rock in time with their own quiet breathing. The sky above was a deep shade of blue, like the inside of a shell, with just a few wispy clouds that drifted lazily across it, their edges feathery and indistinct, as if they were made of moonlight rather than cloud. As the ferry drifted further into mid-river, the water beneath its keel began to shimmer, like the surface of a pond on a summer's day. But this was winter, and the river was cold and dark, its depths hidden beneath a veil of stillness that seemed almost palpable. Yet even in its quietude, there was a sense of movement here, a gentle stirring of the water, as if something deep below was waking from a long slumber, and it was this subtle vibration that lulled the passengers into a state of dreamy relaxation, their eyelids growing heavy as they gazed out at the river's glassy surface. The ferry's wake stretched out behind it like a shimmering silver ribbon, vanishing into the distance as the boat chugged steadily on, carrying its cargo of sleep-hungry travelers across the water to the other side, where the moon would be waiting to welcome them in. As the hours passed, the stars began to twinkle above, like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, and one by one they started to fade into the blue, leaving behind only a soft, ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from the river itself, a gentle reminder that even as we drift through our lives, carried on the currents of time, there is always peace waiting for us at the heart of things. So let your eyes grow heavy now, and feel the warmth spreading through your body, like the golden light of sunset on a summer's day, as you slip deeper into relaxation, carried on the gentle rocking motion of the ferry, further and further away from the world's cares, until all that remains is the sound of the river's soft voice whispering in your ear, a soothing lullaby to guide you home. In a small bookshop nestled between two quiet streets, where the soft glow of street lamps cast long shadows on the pavement outside, a single warm lamp shone like a gentle heart beating within. Its light, a soothing golden hue, filled the room with an air of tranquility, beckoning readers to linger over worn pages and forgotten tales. The shopkeeper, a wise and kind soul named Sophia, had chosen this very spot for her haven of words, knowing that the comforting glow would entice passers-by to pause and breathe in the sweet scent of old books. As dusk gathered outside, casting a serene twilight over the town, Sophia would settle into her favorite armchair, surrounded by shelves upon shelves of dusty tomes, their covers embossed with mystical symbols and faded illustrations of far-off lands. She'd wrap herself in a soft shawl, one threadbare patch revealing the delicate fabric beneath, and lose herself in the whispers of pages turned with reverence, the gentle rustle of leaves, the creaking of leather bindings, and the hushed conversations between characters long past, their stories unfolding like petals on a rose. With each turn of the page, Sophia's eyes would grow heavy, her thoughts drifting on the river of words to distant shores, where sun-kissed beaches beckoned, warm sands caressed feet, and waves sang lullabies in soothing harmony with the lapping of the tide against the shore. As night deepened, the bookshop grew quieter still, until only the soft hum of the lamp's gentle warmth remained, a steady heartbeat, guiding dreamers into slumber, their souls anchored to the comforting light that shone like a sanctuary within. Now, let your own thoughts grow heavy, let your breathing slow, and feel the peaceful tranquility of this bookshop envelop you, carrying you on the soft tide of words to a place where rest and dreams await. In a village nestled at the bottom of a calm lake, where the sky was painted with hues of sapphire and amethyst, and the air was sweet with the scent of blooming water lilies, time moved in gentle rhythms. The villagers lived and breathed to the beat of the lake's quiet pulse, their days unfolding like the petals of a lotus flower, slowly opening to greet the sun. They would wake at dawn, when the mist still clung to the surface of the water, and walk along the shoreline, feeling the cool, dew-kissed grass beneath their feet. The soft lapping of the lake's waves against the shore created a soothing melody that lulled them into their daily routines, tending the gardens, harvesting the fruit trees, and fishing from wooden boats that skimmed across the glassy surface like ghosts. In the evenings, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden light over the village, the air would grow thick with the scent of cooking fires and baking bread, wafting on the breeze like a promise of comfort and nourishment. And when night fell, the stars would twinkle above, reflected in the mirror-like surface of the lake, creating an endless expanse of twinkling lights that seemed to stretch on forever. The villagers would retire to their cozy cottages, feeling grateful for another day lived in harmony with nature's gentle pace. And as they drifted off to sleep, lulled by the lullaby of the lake's waves, they would whisper a soft thank you to the universe for its soothing melody, knowing that tomorrow would bring another chance to live in rhythm with the lake's calm heartbeat. And so, with full hearts and contented sighs, they would surrender to the darkness, their breathing slowing, their bodies relaxing, their minds releasing all worries and cares as the gentle rocking of the night lullaby cradled them into a peaceful slumber. In the darkness of night, when stars were hidden behind a veil of clouds and the moon was just a silver sliver in the sky, there rumbled a train that moved on tracks of its own secret path, far from the world's bustling streets and busy lives. It chugged along through tunnels of ancient trees, whose leaves rustled softly like whispers of forgotten secrets, and over trestles of worn stone that spanned rivers that flowed silently into the night like dark ribbons. The train was called the Lullaby Line, and it ran only under the cover of darkness, its headlights cutting through the shadows like gentle fingers tracing patterns on a wall. Inside, passengers lay quietly in their seats, lulled by the rhythmic rocking motion of the train, as if it were a cradle swaying gently to and fro. The air was filled with the scent of old wood and worn leather, comforting aromas that spoke of warmth and shelter from the cold, dark world outside. As the train rumbled along, its wheels singing a soothing melody on the tracks, the conductor, a kind-eyed man named Henry, moved quietly through the cars, checking tickets and offering cups of steaming tea to those who needed it, his presence as calming as a summer breeze. The passengers were a diverse bunch, but they all seemed to share a secret understanding that this train was not just taking them from one place to another, but carrying them on a journey through the night itself, into the heart of dreams and rest. As the hours passed, their eyes grew heavy, and soon they were all reclining in their seats, the sound of the wheels on the tracks lulling them deeper and deeper into slumber. The train rumbled on, its path unwinding like a thread through the night, carrying its precious cargo of sleepy travelers towards dawn, when the world would slowly come alive again. And as you too feel your eyelids growing heavy, your breathing slowing, let the gentle rocking motion of the lullaby line carry you forward into the depths of sleep, where rest and peace await, like a warm and welcoming haven in the darkness. In the quiet hours of dawn, when the last stars had faded from the sky like embers dying on the hearth, a traveller stumbled upon a humble inn that seemed to materialize from the misty veil of the forest. The sign above the door creaked softly in the morning breeze, bearing an image of a crescent moon and a pair of entwined vines, their leaves a deep, rich green. The windows, like empty eyes, stared back at the traveller with an air of gentle welcome, as if to say, "Come in, weary one, and rest a while." Inside, the fire crackled softly, casting a warm, golden glow across the polished wooden floorboards, and the scent of baking bread wafted from the kitchen, carrying with it the promise of comfort and solace. The innkeeper, a wise and kind-eyed woman named Alara, greeted the traveller with a warm smile, her hands moving deftly as she poured a steaming cup of tea from a delicate, flower-painted pot. As the traveller sipped the sweet, soothing brew, they felt their weariness begin to seep away, like autumn leaves falling from a branch, and their eyelids grew heavy with the weight of restlessness dispelled. Elara led them to a cozy room on the upper floor, where a plush, velvet bed beckoned like a summer cloud, inviting them to sink into its softness and let the gentle hum of the forest lull them into slumber. The night outside seemed to settle around them, like a blanket woven from threads of silver and moonlight, gently swaddling the inn in an aura of peace and tranquility, as the stars above twinkled softly, like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, their gentle sparkle whispering, "Sleep now, dear one. Sleep deeply, knowing you are safe within these walls." The world outside receded, its troubles and cares forgotten, as the traveller let go of their last shred of consciousness, surrendering to the soothing allure of the inn's gentle magic, their breath slowing, their body relaxing, their heart filling with a deep, abiding peace. And in the silence that followed, only the soft crackle of the fire and the gentle hum of the forest remained, guiding them gently down into the realm of dreams. In a house where time was measured by the fall of soft snowflakes from the ceiling, an old woman named Elara lived surrounded by the quiet of winter's hold. The snow fell gently, its delicate touch drifting like feathers down upon her hands as she knitted in the warm glow of candles that lit the room with a soothing light. Outside, the world was shrouded in white, and yet within these walls the air was alive with an otherworldly calm, as if the stillness had seeped from the frozen sky into every fibre of her being. Ilara's fingers moved deftly, creating row upon row of intricate patterns in a fabric that shimmered with threads of silver and gold. The soft hiss of falling snow muffled all sound, allowing her to lose herself in the simple pleasure of creation, where the gentle hush was the only measure of time passing. In this cocoon of quiet, hours melted away like fleeting wisps of cloud on a winter's morning, leaving behind an atmosphere that was both ethereal and grounding. The old woman's eyes would sometimes drip from her work to gaze upon the snowfall, mesmerized by the whiteness that seemed to pulse with a soft blue light, as if it were imbued with a gentle life of its own. As she sat there, surrounded by the soothing beauty of this indoor winter wonderland, Elara felt a sense of peace settle over her like the falling snow, peaceful and slow, carrying all worries away on its silent, drifting touch. Her eyelids grew heavy, her thoughts untangling like threads in the gentle weave of a dream, as she slipped into the stillness, guided by the soft whispers of the snowfall. In a small village nestled between two great hills, where the air was sweet with the scent of blooming heather and the sky seemed to stretch on forever, there lived a woman named Luna who had a special gift. She could find anything that was lost. People would come from all around, bringing their most treasured possessions, from delicate antique clockwork music boxes to beloved childhood toys, and leave them with Luna, trusting her to keep them safe until they were needed again. She would receive these objects with a gentle smile, her eyes sparkling like the stars on a clear night, and tuck each one away in a special place where it would rest, waiting for its return. Her home was a vast, whispery attic above the village shop, filled with trunks of soft, powdery dust and shelves that stretched up to the cobweb-draped ceiling, laden with delicate jars, worn wooden boxes, and intricately carved stone containers. Each one held something precious, something lost but not forgotten, a grandmother's locket, a child's first book, a father's watch. And Luna would sit amidst it all, her fingers weaving through the objects, as if searching for something she knew was hidden, yet couldn't quite recall. Sometimes, when the moon was full and cast an eerie silver glow over the hills, Luna would begin to hum, a soft, wordless tune that seemed to match the gentle rustling of the attic's treasures. And as she hummed, it was as if the lost objects began to stir, their memories awakening like sleepy children on a winter morning. The air would fill with a sweet, nostalgic scent, and Luna's eyes would grow heavy, her breathing slow, until she would be drifting off to sleep among her treasured things, surrounded by the soft whispers of the past. And when she slept, it was as if the lost objects were guarding her, their presence weaving a gentle magic that wrapped itself around her, holding her safe and still in the quiet darkness. Now, dear listener, as you settle into your own bed, let Luna's humming guide you down to rest. Let the whispers of the past lull you into dreamland. May your heart be filled with peace, your spirit soothed by the gentle rustling of memories, and your slumber deep and refreshing like a summer breeze on a still afternoon. Above the rooftops of Ashwood, where the moonlight is a silver mist, I sing a lullaby to the town's sleeping hearts. My voice carries on the gentle breeze like a soft petal on a quiet stream, and as it drifts through the streets, the houses seem to lean in, as if to listen closely, their chimneys rising like sentinels from the rooftops. In this way, I weave a spell of calm over the town, my words threading together the dreams of all who lie within, so that they may sleep peacefully and wake refreshed for another day. The night air is filled with the scent of blooming lilacs, their perfume carrying on the wind like a promise of spring's return, while beneath me the streets are empty and still, save for the occasional hooting of an owl or the distant rumble of a lonely train, its wheels whispering secrets to the night as it rumbles through the valley. In this tranquil scene, I continue my song, my voice blending with the lullaby of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the darkness, all combined to create a soothing melody that envelops Ashwood in an atmosphere of serenity and quiet. And as the night wears on, the stars begin to twinkle overhead like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, their soft light casting shadows on the rooftops below, while I continue my lullaby, drawing the town ever deeper into the peacefulness that has settled over it like a gentle shroud. Let my song be your guide as you drift off to sleep, and may the night's tranquility envelop you in its soothing calm, carrying you gently on its tides of rest and relaxation, until you wake refreshed and renewed, ready to face another day in this world that is full of wonder and beauty. In a sea of warm turquoise where the sun dips slowly into the horizon, an island drifts gently on the tide, its lush green forest swaying in time with the lapping waves that caress its shores like a lover's tender touch. The island's name is Aria, and it has been carrying its cargo of trees and flowers across the water for centuries, its secrets and tales whispering softly to the sea as it drifts northward, ever northward, under the watchful eye of the stars that twinkle like diamonds in the vast expanse above. The air on Aria is filled with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine and the soft song of a lullaby carried on the breeze from an unseen flute player whose notes dance among the swaying palm trees, weaving a spell of tranquility over the island's inhabitants, who live in harmony with nature, their days unfolding like the petals of a flower, slowly opening to greet the light. At dusk, when the sky is painted with hues of pink and orange, the people of Aria gather on the beach to watch the setting sun, its rays casting a golden glow over the waves as the stars begin to appear one by one in the darkening blue above. As night falls, the island's gentle heartbeat slows, and its inhabitants retreat to their homes, lulled by the sound of the surf and the distant music, their dreams infused with visions of Aria's tranquil beauty. The island drifts on, a tiny world of peace and serenity, lost in the vastness of the sea, yet somehow still connected to all that lies beyond. As you breathe in the scent of Aria's flowers, feel your own heartbeat slow, your thoughts untangle, and your body relax, letting go of the day's worries as the island carries you gently into the night, where rest and rejuvenation await, like a soft blanket wrapped around your dreams. In a small, forgotten studio nestled between two grand department stores, a painter sat at his easel, surrounded by canvases of empty waiting rooms. Soft morning light streamed through the grimy windows, casting a serene glow over the scene as he mixed colors on his palette, trying to capture the essence of stillness that pervaded these spaces. He'd never been inside any of these rooms, yet he felt a deep affinity for them, as if their blank walls and empty chairs held secrets that only revealed themselves in the silence. The painter's brush danced across the canvas, applying thin layers of paint to evoke the soft hush of air in these rooms, where time seemed to stand still between the moments of anticipation or departure. As he worked, His gaze drifted toward a large wall at the far end of the studio where an almost completed painting hung, a waiting room with soft green walls and rows of matching chairs, each one occupied by a figure that seemed to fade into the mist of dawn. The painter's eyes followed the contours of the figures' faces. Their features softened as if they were dissolving into the fog, leaving behind only a sense of presence. He set his brush down, stepped back from the canvas, and let his gaze wander over the studio, feeling the tranquility emanate from each unoccupied chair in the half-finished paintings, as if the rooms themselves were breathing. Slow, steady breaths that synchronized with the beat of his own heart. In this peaceful atmosphere, where time lost its urgency and colors blended softly into one another, the painter felt the weight of the world lift from his shoulders, allowing him to sink deeply into the tranquility of the waiting rooms. As his eyelids grew heavy and his breathing slowed in sync with the soft rustle of paint on canvas, he let himself become part of the silence that filled these empty spaces, his spirit merging with the peaceful atmosphere as night's dark veil softly descended outside, carrying the promise of restful sleep. In a small village nestled in the heart of a lush valley, where raindrops fell like delicate diamonds on the rooftops, there was a kitchen that glowed with a warmth that seemed almost otherworldly. On a drizzly evening, when the darkness outside felt like a soft blanket wrapping around the world, Emma slipped into her kitchen, letting out a sigh of contentment as she stepped onto the cool tile floor. She had spent the day huddled over her sewing machine, trying to coax some order from a chaotic patchwork of fabric scraps, but now she was free to let go and simply be. As she moved through the room, the flickering lights on the pendant above the kitchen table seemed to dance in time with her footsteps, casting shadows that were both familiar and mysterious. The air was heavy with the scent of fresh bread rising from the oven, a comforting aroma that transported Emma back to childhood summers spent baking with her grandmother. She slid open the kitchen window, allowing the rain to fall in soft patters on the counter as she watched the droplets cling to the rim like tiny lanterns. In the silence, Emma felt a deep calm settling over her, as if the gentle patter of the rain was soothing some secret worry away. As she poured herself a cup of steaming tea from the pot that sat always at the ready on the stovetop, the kitchen seemed to grow even cozier, the shadows shrinking back into their corners and the light growing brighter in compensation. In this peaceful atmosphere, where every sound was muffled and distant, Emma's eyelids began to feel heavy, her breathing slow, as the rhythm of the raindrops outside lulled her deeper and deeper into the calm of a summer night. Her head nodded forward, her chin dipping toward the steam rising from her cup as the kitchen grew darker, softer, and sleepier, enfolding her in its gentle, soothing warmth. In a green valley nestled among hills of whispering grass, where wildflowers bloomed like scattered jewels in every color of the rainbow, a shepherd named Elara tended her flock with gentle care. She had known these sheep since they were lambs, and now they followed her to the same meadows and streams that their mothers had grazed before them. As the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow across the hills, Elara would lead them to the shelter of an ancient oak tree, where she'd spread out blankets of softest wool beneath which they'd sleep like one great, quiet creature. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers and the low hum of crickets, while above, a full moon cast an ethereal light that seemed to seep into Elara's very bones as she watched her flock slumber. On nights when the wind whispered secrets through the grass and fireflies twinkled like tiny lanterns among the wildflowers, Elara would sit by the oak tree, weaving a tapestry of stories for herself and her flock, of long-ago days when the gods themselves had walked among mortals, and the earth was young and full of wonder. As she spoke in hushed tones, Her words were carried away on the breeze, becoming one with the rustling leaves and chirping crickets, weaving a spell of deep peace that enveloped both shepherd and flock. The sheep would stir only when their bellies were full or the wind changed, but Alara's spirit would remain vigilant, watching over them as they dreamed of verdant pastures and sparkling streams, their gentle breathing and soft bleats blending with the lullaby of crickets to create a symphony that lulled the very earth into a deeper sleep. And when at last Alara closed her own eyes, feeling the weight of her weary bones, the moonlight casting its silvery glow upon her face, she would sink slowly into the soft darkness, cradled by the rhythm of nature and surrounded by the peaceful slumber of her beloved flock, guided by the quiet stillness that only this enchanted valley could provide. In a small, secluded cottage nestled among the whispering trees of a forgotten forest, there lived a gentle soul named Emilia, who tended the ancient, slow clock that stood in her parlor like a sentinel of time. The clock's face was worn and cracked, its hands moving with a deliberate slowness, as if each tick and tock held within it the weight of 1,000 years. For generations, Emilia's family had kept the clock running, oiling its intricate mechanisms and listening to its soothing heartbeat. And so, Emilia would sit in the evening light, feeling the rhythm of the clock seep into her bones, calming her spirit and stilling her mind. As the sun dipped below the treetops, casting long shadows across the room, Emilia would gently wind the clock's mechanism, coaxing forth a new symphony of gentle chimes that seemed to weave a spell of peacefulness over all who heard them. The clock was said to be enchanted, imbued with the magic of the forest itself, and many believed its slow ticks held the power to heal the weary soul. Emilia knew this was true, for she had seen it in her own life, how the clock's gentle rhythm would soothe her when sorrow came, or calm her racing thoughts when anxiety took hold. And as the night wore on, with the darkness outside deepening and the stars twinkling like diamonds in the sky above, Emilia would rise to tend the fire, adding more wood to the flames until the room was bathed in a warm golden light that seemed to emanate from the clock itself. As she settled back into her chair, the ticking grew softer still, hypnotic and lulling, drawing her into a world of quiet dreams and restful sleep. And so it was that Emilia's cottage became a sanctuary for weary travelers who would stumble upon its door in search of refuge from the turmoil of their lives, only to find solace in the gentle, rocking motion of the clock's slow heartbeat as it lulled them into a deep and dreamless slumber. As you too begin to relax, let Emilia's peaceful world wrap itself around you, the clock's soothing chimes weaving a spell that will carry you gently into the realm of sleep, where worries fade like morning dew and your spirit is rejuvenated by the gentle tick-tock of this enchanted timekeeper. In the heart of a vast and silent night, a lone train rumbled through the darkness, its wheels creaking softly on the tracks as it carried its precious cargo of dreams to destinations unknown. The carriage was empty now, except for one gentle soul who had claimed the upper berth for themselves, wrapping in a soft blanket that shimmered like moonlight in the dim glow of the overhead reading lamp. Outside, the world slipped by in shades of indigo and midnight blue, the only sound, the lulling rumble of the engine as it breathed its way through the stillness. The train's rhythmic sway rocked the carriage from side to side, a soothing cradle that seemed to mold itself to the contours of the sleeper's body, as if sensing their deepest longings for rest and tranquility. As the hours passed, the darkness outside deepened, like a rich, velvety cloak that enveloped all in its path. Yet within this carriage, time itself began to slow, becoming almost liquid and malleable, permitting the dreamer to slide into an ocean of sleep that would cradle them for the duration of their journey. The trees outside receded, The stars twinkled like diamonds scattered on black silk, and the train's gentle rocking motion became a universal heartbeat that synchronized with the sleeper's own pulsing lifeblood. As the miles slipped by, the dreamer felt their eyelids grow heavy, weighed down by an unseen force that sought to still all movement, to quiet all thought, and surrender them into the realm of the unknown. In this tranquil kingdom, worries and cares lost all significance as the train's soft chugging lulled the sleeper deeper until the rhythm became a mere whisper, barely audible above the silence itself. And so, the dreamer drifted further out to sea, on an endless tide of sleep, where they would be carried by the gentle hands of Morpheus to the shores of dreamland, where moonflowers bloomed in every color of the rainbow and waters sang lullabies of sweet forgetfulness. Here, time stood still, yet moved ever forward, carrying all dreams and one quiet sleeper into a rest so deep it would defy tomorrow's dawn. Sleep. In the heart of a snowed-in lodge, where candles flickered softly in the stillness, I found myself drawn to the warm glow of the fireside, its golden light dancing across the icy windows like a gentle spirit. Outside, the forest slumbered, its trees etched against the dark sky like delicate pen and ink drawings, their limbs swaying softly in the quiet breeze, as if sharing a secret among themselves. I settled into the plush armchair beside the fire, feeling the weight of my worries slowly seep away with each crackle of the flames, as the soft hiss of steam rose from a cup of hot tea balanced on the edge of the stone hearth, its warmth embracing me like a gentle hug. The room was filled with the scent of simmering stew and roasting pine nuts, their fragrance mingling with the hint of snowflakes melting on the windowsills, creating an atmosphere so tranquil that it seemed to wrap itself around me like a soft blanket. As I sat there, the flames began to hypnotize me, their gentle dance weaving a spell of calm, drawing my gaze deeper into the heart of the fire, where shadows swirled and merged in a soothing symphony of light and darkness, until all that remained was the soft pulse of the flames themselves, beating out a lullaby of warmth and comfort, guiding me toward the threshold between wakefulness and sleep. In this peaceful sanctuary, time itself seemed to slow its pace, allowing me to surrender to the allure of slumber, as if cradled in a nest of moonbeams and starlight, where the world's gentle rustle and hush became my own personal lullaby, drawing me down into the soft darkness, deeper and deeper, until all that remained was the sweet stillness of sleep itself. In the quiet heart of a city, where stone buildings slumbered beneath a soft blanket of night sky, there stood an old library that remained open all hours, its halls whispering with secrets and stories. Its walls were lined with shelves that stretched up to the ceiling like sentinels guarding ancient knowledge, their wooden surfaces worn smooth by countless hands that had touched them over the years. As the clock struck midnight, the last patrons left behind a trail of softly glowing lamps, casting a warm amber light upon the rows of books, making it seem as though the very pages themselves were radiating a gentle warmth. The air inside was heavy with the scent of old paper and leather, a comforting aroma that seemed to settle deep within the chest, calming the mind and soothing the soul. As the hours ticked by, the silence grew thicker until it became almost palpable, a living entity that wrapped itself around the library like a soft, dark blanket. In this hushed atmosphere, a lone figure moved quietly among the shelves, her footsteps muffled by the plush carpeting as she searched for a specific title, her eyes scanning the spines of the books with a look of intent focus. Her name was Amelia, and she had spent countless nights within these walls, drawn by an unspoken magic that seemed to emanate from the very stones themselves. As she walked, the shadows cast by the lamps danced across her face, creating an illusion of movement, as though her features were being subtly rearranged by some unseen force. The books on either side of her seemed to lean in, as if sharing a secret, their titles whispering softly in her ear, drawing her deeper into the labyrinthine halls. And yet, despite the stillness and the darkness, there was a sense of gentle vitality here, a feeling that life itself was being distilled into its purest essence, a soothing balm for weary souls. As Amelia paused before a particularly ancient tome, its pages rustling softly as she opened it, her eyelids began to droop, her breathing slowing in time with the beat of the library's own heartbeat. The air seemed to grow heavier still, enfolding her in a soft, silken wrap, and as she leaned forward, her head nodding gently toward the book, her thoughts began to fade into the quiet darkness, like falling snowflakes, blanketing all worries and cares beneath a deep, peaceful slumber. As the room itself seemed to breathe more slowly now, exhaling its own tranquility into the night air, Emilia's chest rose and fell one final time, her body relaxing completely as she drifted away on a sea of words and silence. In the mountains, where the air is crisp and the mist hangs like a veil, there stood a small tea-house perched on a precipice overlooking a valley that stretched out like a canvas of silver and grey. The tea-house was known as Kokoro, a place where travelers would come to rest their weary heads and warm their chilled bones with cups of steaming jasmine tea. It was said that the mist itself seemed to gather around the tea-house at dusk, swirling in tendrils through the windows and doors like ethereal fingers, but within its walls all was calm and serene, a refuge from the world outside. The owner, an elderly woman named Akira, would sit cross-legged on a cushion near the fire, her eyes closed as if listening to the whispers of the mist itself, while her hands moved with slow deliberation to pour the tea into delicate cups that seemed to float in mid-air like wisps of cloud. Some said she had lived at Kokoro all her life, and some said she was only a caretaker for the true owner, a wise and benevolent spirit who dwelled deep within the mist itself. As night descended, Akira would smile and offer each guest a cup, saying, "Drink this, and let your worries dissolve like morning dew." And as they sipped, their eyes would glaze over, and they would fall into a deep, dreamless sleep, lulled by the soft rustling of the mist outside. It was said that on certain nights when the moon was new and the air was filled with a heavy scent of damp earth, Akira's tea could transport those who drank it to hidden worlds within the mist itself, where they would roam free among the clouds, unencumbered by cares or troubles. And yet, all anyone knew for sure was that the tea-house remained standing through seasons and storms, an enduring refuge from the world outside, a place of deep peace, where even the wispiest threads of fear and anxiety were gently unwound like loose skeins of wool, until all that was left was stillness, serenity, and the quiet comfort of being exactly as one should be. In the heart of winter, when snowflakes fell like tiny ballerinas from the grey sky, there stood a railway station, wrapped in silence and peace, its platform shrouded in a layer of soft white blanket that seemed to absorb all sounds, leaving only an eerie stillness. The trains had long since stopped running, their tracks hidden beneath a mantle of pristine snow, but the station remained, a frozen monument to times past, its wooden beams weathered to a silvery grey that glowed softly in the pale winter light. As night began to fall, a lone porter, his face creased with kindness and age, made his way along the deserted platforms, his footsteps quiet on the snow-covered rails as he checked the ancient station clock for what felt like the 100th time that day. The clock ticked steadily, its gentle heartbeat weaving itself into the rhythm of the falling snow, creating a hypnotic cadence that seemed to draw all sounds and movement into its calm, soothing melody. And as the porter worked his way through the deserted platforms, he began to notice something strange, tiny lights flickering in the windows of the empty waiting rooms, like fireflies dancing on the periphery of sight, casting a soft, ethereal glow over the snow-covered platform. The porter's eyes widened with wonder as he realized that these were not just ordinary lights, but the lanterns of the station's ancient spirits, come to guide and protect those who still lingered in this place, their gentle pulsing light infusing the air with a soft, comforting magic. As the porter watched, entranced, the lights began to pulse more rapidly, like a lullaby sung by unseen hands, drawing all who listened into its soothing melody, wrapping them in a warm, white blanket of peace and tranquility. And as the snow continued to fall, gently, steadily outside, within the station, time itself seemed to slow down, the clock's gentle heartbeat growing slower still, until it was almost imperceptible, like a heartbeat in slumber. The air grew quiet, the only sound the soft whisper of snowflakes on the platform, as if the very earth itself were lulling all who lay within its silence into a deep and dreamless sleep. And so, one by one, the lights in the waiting rooms began to fade, their gentle pulsing slowing to nothing more than a soft, flickering glow, like embers dying in a hearth, until they too finally went out, plunging the station back into darkness, but not silence. For even as all was quiet and still, a faint humming noise could be heard, like the beat of a distant heart, growing softer with every passing moment, leading those who listened deeper and deeper into the soothing depths of sleep. In a greenhouse nestled in the heart of a lush garden, where gentle raindrops sparkled on delicate petals and soft sunlight filtered through panes of glass, a symphony of slumbering plants seemed to hum a lullaby to one another. Towering trees with leaves like emerald fans stretched towards the ceiling, their branches swaying softly in the evening breeze, while velvety blooms in shades of lavender and rose nestled in beds of moss, their scents whispering sweet dreams to all who lay nearby. A warm mist rose from the earth, carrying the whispers of ancient secrets, as a family of ferns, each one a sentinel of delicate fronds, guarded a cluster of sleeping orchids, their petals unfolding like tiny stars in the stillness. In this sanctuary of rest, where time itself seemed to slow, the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of crickets wove a spell of peace that wrapped around every plant like a soothing blanket, calming their tender shoots and drawing them deeper into repose. As night's veil descended, the greenhouse grew quiet, save for the soft creaking of wooden beams and the faint hum of an unseen heartbeat, the pulse of life itself, which whispered to each slumbering form that it was safe, it was loved, and all would be well in this tranquil world. And so, as stars began to twinkle outside through the glass roof like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, the plants settled deeper into their dreams, their gentle snores blending with the heartbeat of life to create a lullaby that wrapped around every listener, soothing them, calming them, and guiding them gently towards the realm of rest, where all worries fade away like morning dew in the warmth of sunrise. In a seaside cottage, nestled among the twisted cypress trees that grew like giants' fingers out of the rocky cliffside, a gentle breeze rustled the silver curtains as the first whispers of dusk began to settle over the waves below. Outside, in the fading light, the foghorn moaned its soft melody, a lullaby of warning and reassurance that drew the sea creatures closer to the shore, their silvery scales catching the last glints of sun on the water's surface like scattered diamonds. Within the cottage, candles flickered softly as Emma tended to her daily routine, preparing for the night ahead with quiet efficiency. She had lived in this little house all her life, watching over the sleepy fishing village below, where the boats were coming in now, their crews exchanging tales of the day's catch on the beachside. As she worked, the air thickened, and the darkness outside seemed to seep into the room through every crack and crevice. But Emma moved with a gentle confidence, her hands moving in rhythmic motion as if conducting an invisible orchestra of shadows. The fog crept closer now, tendrils curling around the cottage's walls like ghostly fingers, and though it shrouded everything in its misty veil, Emma felt no sense of unease. On the contrary, she seemed to breathe more deeply, her movements slowing as if synchronizing with the rising tide. Outside, the foghorn sang its low, mournful song once more, then fell silent, leaving an expectant hush that seemed to stretch out across the water like a great, unseen bridge. And Emma stood still now, one hand resting on the windowsill as she gazed out into the darkness where nothing was discernible but the steady beat of her own heart. The waves outside lapped gently against the shore, their melody intertwining with the stillness within the cottage in a soothing harmony that seemed to rock the very foundations of reality. In a crooked street that wandered like a sleepy cat through the heart of the city, there stood a small candle shop with windows aglow like lanterns in the dark. The owner's name was Ilara, and she tended to her wicks and waxen hearts as tenderly as any gardener tends to flowers in bloom. Every evening, as the street lamps overhead cast long shadows on the pavement, Ilara would arrange her candles in the shop window, like a painter arranging still life compositions, golden tapers standing sentinel beside silver votives, their gentle flames dancing in the autumn breeze that carried the whispers of passers-by. Some said that on quiet nights, when the wind stilled and the stars came out to twinkle above, you could hear Ilara's candles singing a soft, wordless hymn, their sweet harmonies weaving together like the threads of a spider's web into an intricate pattern of peace and tranquility. Others claimed that if you stood very still outside the shop, listening closely to the flicker of the flames, you might just catch the faint scent of rose petals on the breeze, as if Ilara had infused her candles with the essence of love itself. As night deepened, the shadows cast by the street lamps began to stretch and yawn like sleepy children, reaching for the doorframe where a wooden sign creaked gently in the darkness, Ilara's Ember and Dream, emblazoned in letters as delicate as a child's handwriting. And then, as if on cue, the candles within would seem to pulse with an extra gentle light, their soft glow enveloping the street like a warm blanket on a winter's night. In this sweet, dreamy hush, it was easy to imagine that Ilara's candles held not just wax and wick, but the very essence of calm itself. And as you breathed in deeply, feeling your eyelids grow heavy with sleepiness, I invite you to join me now on a journey into the realm of dreams, where Ilara's gentle flames dance on forever, guiding you home to rest. In the still of the evening, when the sun's last rays had faded from the sky, the monks would climb the winding stair of the monastery bell tower, their footsteps quiet on the stone steps as they ascended to the topmost chamber where the great bronze bell hung suspended from a wooden frame. The air was heavy with the scent of old stone and incense, carried on the gentle breeze that rustled through the cypress trees in the cloister below. As the final monk reached the top, he would take his place beside the other brothers, their hands clasped together in prayer as they awaited the stroke of midnight. And at this hour, when all was still and darkness had claimed the world outside, a soft blue light began to seep through the windows, illuminating the intricate carvings that adorned the bell tower's walls like a delicate network of silver threads. It was said by some that on certain nights, when the moon was full and the stars were bright, this gentle glow would grow in intensity until it shone like a beacon across the countryside, guiding travelers home to their own hearths and beds. But I think there is more to it than that. I believe the light is not just a signal for those outside, but also a soft reminder of the peace and tranquility that lies within these stone walls, where the monks have devoted themselves to contemplation and prayer for generations past. As the night wore on and the darkness deepened, the brothers would remain in silence, lost in their own thoughts as the light above them grew stronger, until at last it seemed to envelop all, like a soft, soothing mist that settled over the hearts of each one, calming fears and doubts, washing away the worries of the world. And so I too will let my worries fade, and allow the gentle peace of this sacred place to seep into me, as I stand beside you here in the stillness of the bell tower, surrounded by the soft blue light that seems to hold within it all the quiet wisdom and calm of 1,000 nights gone by. As we breathe together now, feel your eyelids growing heavy, and your mind growing quieter, and your body relaxing into the gentle support of the stone beneath you. As the moon dips low into the horizon, casting a silver glow upon the rippling waters of the gentle river, a lone boat drifts effortlessly downstream, its wooden hull creaking softly as it glides over the calm surface. The air is filled with the sweet scent of blooming water lilies and the soft chirping of crickets, their evening song weaving in harmony with the lapping of the water against the boat's hull. On board, a figure sits peacefully at the helm, surrounded by the soft, flickering light of lanterns that seem to dance upon the ripples like fireflies on a summer night. The river itself appears as a shimmering veil, its surface reflecting the stars above like a mirrored sky, and the boat glides through it with all the haste of a dream, leaving behind only the faintest whisper of its passing, as if it were a ghostly apparition, unmoored from the world of time. The figure at the helm is lost in thought, their eyes fixed upon some distant point on the horizon, where the river's path stretches out into mystery and enchantment. As they sit, the water lilies seem to bloom more thickly around them, their delicate white petals unfolding like tiny stars, and the crickets grow quieter, as if sensing that the night is about to surrender its secrets to the darkness. And so the boat drifts on, a small, fragile vessel adrift upon an endless sea of dreams, leaving behind only the gentle lapping of the water against its hull and the soft whisper of the river's song, which seems to say, "Rest now, dear one, for you are safe in this place, where time itself flows gently by." In the heart of the desert, where dunes stretched out like endless waves, and the stars twinkled like diamonds scattered on black velvet, there stood a secret oasis, hidden from the world by its own veil of palms and papyrus reeds. The sun had set long ago, casting a deep purple hue over the sandy expanse, and now the moon was rising, its gentle light illuminating the intricate patterns etched into the rocks as it climbed higher in the sky. A soft breeze whispered through the oasis, carrying the scent of date blossoms and the distant call of an unseen owl, and in this peaceful atmosphere a young girl named Ava wandered alone, her bare feet sinking into the cool sand as she made her way deeper into the palm grove. She had been drawn here by some inexplicable force, one that guided her through the winding paths and brought her to the very heart of the oasis, where an ancient stone statue stood watch, its weathered face serene and mysterious. Ava reached out a hand to touch the statue's stone breast, feeling an unexpected calm wash over her as she did so, and in this moment time itself seemed to slow, allowing her to see the world around her with fresh eyes, the delicate dance of fireflies lighting up the darkness, the soft hooting of the owl echoing through the night air, the infinite stars twinkling like tiny lanterns above. As she stood there, Ava felt herself becoming one with the desert itself, feeling its vastness and timelessness settle within her, until she was no longer a small, separate person, but an integral part of this timeless landscape, connected to every rock and dune and star in some deep and abiding way. And as the moon continued its steady climb through the sky, Ava's eyelids grew heavy, her breathing slowed, and her heart filled with a sense of peace that would stay with her forever, until she finally surrendered to the allure of sleep, letting go into the darkness like a feather drifting on a desert breeze. In the heart of an empty plain, where the sun dips slowly into the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the grasses that sway gently in its final breath, stood a lone windmill, its sails motionless, as if waiting for the stars to stir within the velvet sky above. The wind rustled through the blades, creating a soft, soothing melody that was both calming and melancholic, like the gentle lapping of waves on a distant shore. The air was filled with the sweet scent of wild flowers that bloomed in every direction, their delicate petals shimmering in the fading light as the plain itself seemed to breathe softly into stillness. Inside the windmill, a lone figure sat hunched over a wooden desk, surrounded by dusty books and worn papers that held the secrets of the land's ancient past. The keeper, an old man named Aaron, had tended the mill for most of his life, watching the seasons ebb and flow like the rhythm of the wind itself. His eyes, red-rimmed from years of staring at the horizon, would sometimes drift towards the plain as it grew dark, where the stars began to twinkle in the sky like a scattering of diamonds on the velvet fabric of night. He'd imagined the spirits of the land stirring, ancient beings that dwelled within the earth and the wind, watching over the slumbering landscape with gentle care. And so he'd sit, his hands clasped together as if in prayer, feeling the weight of the world settle into stillness around him, until finally the night air would fill with a soft, whispery quiet, like the gentle rustle of leaves or the soft hum of crickets on a summer evening. As the darkness deepened and the windmill's shadows grew long and sinuous across the plain, Aaron would rise from his chair, stretch his old bones, and make his way outside to stand beneath the stars, feeling their twinkle grow brighter within him like embers in a hearth. He'd breathe deeply of the night air, letting its scents carry him away on the wind's soft sighs, until he felt his own heart grow calm, and his eyes grow heavy with sleep's sweet promise. And as I sit here now, listening to the windmill's gentle creaking, I feel Aaron's peacefulness settle over me like a shroud, carrying me on its whispery currents into a realm of dreams where the stars shine bright in every corner, guiding me ever deeper into slumber, further and further into rest. Deep within an ancient forest, hidden from prying eyes by tangled vines and whispering leaves, lay a secret hot spring, its waters warmed by the gentle touch of geothermal fingers, like the soft caress of summer breeze on a still summer night. For centuries, only the forest creatures knew of this tranquil sanctuary, where time itself seemed to slow and worries were washed away like fallen autumn leaves down a winding brook. As dusk descended upon the woods, the spring's waters began their gentle dance, shimmering with a soft luminescence that beckoned weary travelers to come and rest a while. Their path was revealed by fireflies dancing in time, like tiny ballerinas performing a choreographed waltz across the trees, their twinkling lights weaving a magical pathway through the underbrush. Following this ethereal guide, one might stumble upon the spring's rim, where soft moss and velvety grasses created a cushioned seat for weary bones to rest. As moonlight spilled into the clearing, its silvery glow illuminated the waters, now gently rippling with an otherworldly serenity, like the quiet breathing of a mother lulling her child into slumber. The trees above whispered ancient secrets in a language known only to the forest's heart, their branches swaying in gentle harmony as if performing a nocturnal symphony for the spring's solitary occupant, a wise old owl perched on a nearby branch, eyes closed, listening intently to the rhythm of the night. In this enchanted glade, time lost its meaning, and all that remained was the soothing melody of water and leaves, a symphony that seemed to whisper secrets only known to those willing to slow their own heartbeat in tune with nature's peaceful lullaby. In the city's oldest district, where the night market had long since closed its stalls and vendors packed up their colorful wares, a soft hush settled over the deserted streets like a gentle blanket. The scent of street food still lingered in the air, sweet and savory, but it was mingled now with the fragrance of blooming jasmine that climbed the trellises of ancient houses. The moon cast long shadows across the cobbled sidewalks as I wandered through the empty stalls, my footsteps echoing off the walls. Every vendor had gone home for the night, leaving behind only their carefully arranged displays and the whisper of wind rustling the paper lanterns strung above them like a chorus of soft, ethereal voices. In one corner, a young musician's instrument lay abandoned on its stand, a lute with intricately carved mother-of-pearl tuning pegs that shone like tiny moons in the moonlight. I picked it up, feeling the weight and balance of it in my hands, and began to strum a slow, melancholy melody that seemed to match the rhythm of the city's heartbeat as it slowed and deepened with the night. The music drew out into the streets, a shimmering thread of sound that seemed to weave itself together with the whispers of the wind and the scents of the night market. As I played on, the world around me grew quieter still, until only the music remained, a gentle lullaby that wrapped itself around me like a soft, protective blanket. The stars above began to twinkle in time with my fingers as they moved over the strings, and I felt myself being drawn into their peaceful rhythm, my breath slowing, my heart growing calm. In the heart of a secluded valley, surrounded by towering mountains that whispered secrets to each other in the wind, stood an ancient observatory, its stone walls bearing witness to countless nights spent gazing up at the starry sky. For generations, astronomers had walked these halls, mapping the constellations and seeking answers to the mysteries of the universe. But now it was a place of solitude, where one lone keeper tended the great telescope with a devotion that bordered on reverence. The observatory's name was Stellaria, and its guardian was an elderly woman named Astrid, whose silver hair flowed like the starlight she loved so much. She would often sit in her favorite chair, surrounded by dusty tomes and scraps of celestial charts, watching the stars twinkle to life as night descended on the valley. Her eyes would follow the Great Bear, Ursa Major, as it climbed its slow path across the sky, the North Star shining bright at its heart, like a beacon calling out to all who sought guidance in the vast expanse of the unknown. As the night wore deeper, Astrid's thoughts would turn to the celestial harmonies that governed the universe, the gentle dance of planets, the soothing rhythm of comets, and the whispered secrets of the cosmos. She felt connected to the stars, her heartbeat synchronizing with their slow pulsations, as if she were an instrument tuning itself to the symphony of creation. The air inside Stellaria grew thick with the scent of old books and starlight, and Astrid's breathing slowed in tandem, becoming one with the gentle hum of the observatory's machinery. As the hours passed, her eyelids began to droop, and the stars above seemed to grow brighter, filling the room with a soft, ethereal glow that illuminated the path to sleep. The world outside grew quieter still, the only sound the distant hooting of an owl, like a whispered promise of rest to come. As the night deepened, Astrid's head nodded forward, her chin dipping towards her chest, and her breathing slowed even further, becoming one with the peaceful rhythm of the stars above. In this tranquil state, she let go of all worries, releasing them into the velvet darkness like falling leaves on an autumn breeze, and as her body relaxed, her spirit rose up to join the celestial choir, singing in harmony with the universe. Now it is time for you to follow Astrid's gentle pace. Let your eyelids grow heavy, your breathing slow down, and your heart fill with the peacefulness of the starry night, letting go of all worries as the soft darkness claims you, wrapping you snugly in its soothing arms, guiding you towards a rest that is as infinite as the stars above. In the heart of a forest, far from bustling cities, where ancient trees stood sentinel and their leaves whispered secrets to each other on the breeze, there was a secluded bathhouse with warm stone floors that seemed to absorb the chill of winter like a soft blanket. Its walls were made of rough-hewn gray granite, worn smooth in places by the gentle touch of generations of bathers, and its windows let in slivers of sunlight that danced across the water-filled basins like tiny ballerinas on stage. As night began to fall, a warm glow seeped from the stone, as if the earth itself were radiating comfort and tranquility, and the air inside grew thick with the scent of chamomile and lavender. In this peaceful sanctuary, where the only sounds were the gentle lapping of water against the edges of the pools and the soft creaking of wooden shutters, a young girl named Akira loved to come and soak her worries away in the warm waters. She would sit with eyes closed, letting the heat seep into her bones, feeling the world outside grow quieter and farther away, until all that was left was the gentle lapping of the water and the soft beat of her own heart. And as she floated there, suspended between wakefulness and sleep, it seemed to Akira that the stones themselves were humming a low, soothing melody, one that vibrated deep within her chest and seemed to be drawing her down into the depths of relaxation, like a river flowing gently towards the sea. The air grew darker outside, but inside the bathhouse all was calm and peaceful, as if time itself had slowed its pace and was moving with Akira's heartbeat, slow and steady, guiding her deeper and deeper into rest. In a moss-covered forest where ancient trees whispered secrets to each other in the gentle breeze, there stood a sacred shrine, its entrance hidden behind a curtain of ivy and ferns. The air was alive with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers, and the soft filtering of sunlight through the leaves above cast dappled shadows on the forest floor. Inside the shrine, a tranquil pool reflected the beauty of the surrounding landscape, its surface disturbed only by the occasional visitation of a curious deer or the faint ripple caused by a wandering breeze. A solitary figure, cloaked in misty silence, tended to this place of peace, tending the moss-covered stones with gentle reverence and pouring waters from a delicate crystal pitcher into the pool's depths, creating ripples that danced across its surface like the tender touch of summer rain. The shrine itself was a symphony of soft sounds, the hooting of owls in the distance, the rustle of leaves beneath the wind's caress, and the quiet gurgling of water flowing through hidden channels within the stone walls. In this sanctuary of serenity, time stood still, and all who entered felt their worries fade like morning mist before the rising sun. And as night fell, soft lanterns made from delicate shells filled with an ethereal glow began to illuminate the surroundings, casting a mystical radiance that seemed to emanate directly from the forest itself, enveloping all in its gentle light. Now let your eyelids grow heavy, like the leaves on the ancient trees, and allow the soothing rhythms of this peaceful shrine to guide you into the depths of restful slumber. As you breathe in the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers, feel your body relax, surrendering itself to the quiet tranquility that fills every corner of this enchanted sanctuary. May your dreams be gentle as a summer breeze, and may you awaken refreshed, renewed, and ready to face another day in harmony with nature's soothing melody. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the city outside was hushed and still, the clockmaker's workshop came alive with a soft golden light that spilled from the skylight above and illuminated the intricate mechanisms that lined the walls. The master clockmaker, an old man with hands as deft as a child's, moved with deliberate slowness, his eyes twinkling with a quiet intensity as he wound the springs and adjusted the delicate balance wheels of the timepieces. His apprentice, a young girl with hair as dark as the woodwork, sat at a nearby bench, her fingers tracing the patterns on a tiny watch face as she listened to the gentle ticking of the clockwork heartbeat. The air was filled with the scent of oil and leather, and the soft whisper of gears turning in harmony. Outside, the first light of dawn crept over the rooftops, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. But within the workshop, time itself seemed to slow, as if the clocks were somehow feeding back into the world, a sense of stillness, a reminder that even in the midst of movement and activity, there is always room for quiet contemplation. As the clockmaker worked on, his hands moving with a soothing rhythm, the apprentice's eyelids began to droop, her breathing slowing as she leaned forward, her face tilted up towards the warm light, her eyes fixed on some point just beyond the workshop's edge. And then, slowly, all of them, clocks, watchmaker, apprentice, even the gentle whisper of gears turning, seemed to fade into a deep and dreamless sleep. The city outside stirred, but in the clockmaker's workshop, time itself had stilled, leaving only a profound and peaceful silence. On the surface of a still lake, where the reeds swayed softly in the breeze like 1,000 green fingers, a floating lantern festival was taking place under the starlight. The water's skin rippled ever so slightly as the delicate wooden boats, adorned with candles and flowers, drifted lazily across its expanse, each one bearing its own gentle cargo of soft music and sweet fragrance. As the night deepened, the air filled with 1,000 tiny sparks of light, the lantern's flickering flames casting an enchanting glow on the lake's calm face, creating an ethereal dance of color and shadow that seemed almost otherworldly. The soft lapping of the water against the boat's hulls accompanied the soothing melodies of traditional instruments, their sweet notes weaving together with the rustling reeds to create a hypnotic spell that wrapped around the heart, calming its beats like a gentle balm. And as the stars shone down in a brilliant tapestry above, it seemed as though the very lake itself had become alive, its depths resonating with an ancient magic, its surface adorned with this majestic festival of light and sound. The people on the boats, smiling softly to themselves, were merely guests in this enchanted world, there to bask in the tranquility that permeated every molecule of air, their souls feeding on the peace that radiated from the lake's calm face like a warm sunbeam. As the night wore on and the lights grew brighter still, the music swelled into a gentle crescendo, beckoning all who listened to surrender to its soothing rhythms, letting go of their worries and troubles with each passing moment. And so, as the last boat drifted silently across the lake's mirror-like surface, carrying with it the final wisps of melody and fragrance, it was as if the very essence of tranquility had been distilled into this one magical instant, where all was calm, all was bright, and every heart could sink into a deep and restful sleep. Sleep came like a soft dewfall on the grassy banks, each drop touching the skin with its cooling kiss, refreshing and rejuvenating the soul. As the lights faded from sight, the lake's surface regained its stillness, reflecting back the starry expanse above in perfect serenity. Now it is time to join this peaceful slumber, surrounded by the soothing rhythms of the floating lantern festival, your heart heavy with tranquility, your spirit at rest. In a small cottage nestled at the edge of a wheat field, where the sun dipped into the horizon and painted the sky with hues of rose and gold, a gentle silence reigned supreme. The thatched roof, soft as a feather bed, seemed to absorb the last rays of daylight, and the wind whispered secrets through the gaps in the eaves, a soothing melody that wove itself into the fabric of the evening air. Inside, a fire crackled in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the simple furnishings, and the scent of baking bread wafted from the kitchen, a comforting aroma that filled every nook and cranny. In this peaceful sanctuary, a young woman named Luna sat on the porch, her eyes fixed upon the sea of wheat swaying softly in the breeze, as if dancing to an unheard rhythm. As the stars began their twinkling procession across the sky, a faint, ethereal light appeared at the far edge of the field, a gentle luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself. It was as if the wheat, responding to some unseen signal, had begun to glow with an otherworldly radiance, casting an aura of calm and serenity over the landscape. Luna's gaze became entranced, her breath slowing to match the gentle motion of the swaying grain, as she felt herself being drawn into the peaceful reverie that surrounded her. The world, in this moment, was bathed in a soft silver light, imbued with an essence both mystical and familiar, like the warmth of a summer breeze on a childhood afternoon. As the light deepened and spread, Luna's eyelids began to droop, her thoughts growing languid and disconnected, her breathing synchronized with the gentle rustle of the wheat. The world outside receded, and all that remained was the soothing whisper of the wind, the soft crackle of the fire, and the slow, lulling sway of the grain, a symphony designed to gently guide her into the realm of dreams. In a small harbor where the boats slept side by side, their gentle rocking lulls was like a soothing melody that wrapped around every listener, calming their very soul. The sun had set long ago, leaving behind only a hint of its warmth, and now the stars were twinkling to life in the vast expanse above, casting an ethereal glow over the harbor. The water, once a deep turquoise during the day, had transformed into a gentle blue, almost indigo, with shades of purple dancing across it like wispy brushstrokes on a canvas. As night descended, a subtle mist began to creep in, weaving its way between the masts and rigging of the sleeping boats, leaving behind an otherworldly quiet that hung heavy over the harbor. It was as if time itself had slowed down, allowing each moment to unfold like a delicate petal opening to greet the gentle caress of the night air. In this serene atmosphere, where only the occasional hooting of owls or chirping of crickets broke the stillness, it's easy to imagine that the boats themselves were not just mere vessels, but guardians of dreams, their sails gently billowing in the breeze as they keep watch over the harbor, watching over all who sleep within its tranquil walls. As you breathe in the soft scent of salt water and the subtle hint of seaweed carried on the evening air, let your eyelids grow heavy, your thoughts begin to drift like sea foam on the waves, and your heart fills with a deep sense of peace. Feel the gentle rocking motion of the harbor, lulling you into a state of relaxation, as the stars above twinkle in rhythm with the beat of your own slumbering heartbeat. Let yourself sink deeper into this peaceful haven, where every care is left behind, and the world slows down to match the soothing ebb and flow of the tides. As you drift off to sleep, remember that just like the boats in the harbor, you are safe, secure, and cradled by the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. May your rest be as peaceful as a summer's day, your dreams as vivid as the colors dancing across the night sky, and your waking hours filled with joy and tranquility, like the sweet songs of the harbor's lullaby. In the dusty attic of an old house, where shadows danced across faded trunks and forgotten chests, a small wooden sailboat bobbed gently on its moorings, surrounded by the relics of childhood's past. Dust motes swirled around it, like tiny ballerinas performing a silent waltz, as the faint scent of linseed oil and aged wood drifted through the air, carrying whispers of long-forgotten laughter. On a nearby shelf, a porcelain doll with glassy blue eyes sat serenely, her golden locks braided and tied back with an intricate knot, her delicate fingers curled around the hem of a faded dress that had once been worn to parties and picnics by children who were now grown and gone. In the far corner, a tin soldier stood at attention, his bright red coat faded but still proudly emblazoned with golden braid, while nearby a music box played a soft, ethereal melody on its own, as if stirred by some hidden magic that only revealed itself in slumber's hush. As night deepened and the house grew quiet, the shadows began to stretch and merge, casting long fingers across the attic floor, and the wooden sailboat creaked softly, as if responding to some distant call that echoed through the silence like a lullaby, drawing all the forgotten toys together in a gentle dance of remembrance. The music box's final notes faded into the stillness, leaving only the soft whisper of its own heartbeat, pulsing with an almost imperceptible rhythm, guiding the dreamy, drifting dust motes back to their slumber, one by one, until all was calm and quiet, and the attic lay wrapped in a peaceful silence that seemed to seep into every molecule of air, carrying the promise of restful nights ahead. As you listen now, let your eyelids grow heavy, your breathing slow and deep, like the gentle rocking of the sailboat on its moorings. Sleep is waiting for you, just beyond the threshold of this quiet place. In a garden hidden behind an old stone wall where the air is heavy with the scent of jasmine and the sound of crickets provides a constant lullaby, there blooms a flower that unfurls its petals only under the soft light of the full moon. The garden's name is Lunaria, and it has been tended by generations of gentle caretakers who whisper secrets to the flowers as they water them by hand. On nights when the moon hangs low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the garden paths, the flowers begin to stir, their petals unfolding like delicate wings as they reach for the silver light. It is a time of great magic in Lunaria, and those who wander through its tranquil aisles on these enchanted evenings may catch glimpses of moonbeams dancing among the foliage, or hear the soft hum of bees as they gather nectar from the flowers that bloom only under the moon's gentle gaze. The garden paths wind like a serpent through the heart of Lunaria, leading to hidden clearings and secret glades where the moonlight pours down in shafts of silver, illuminating petals of every color, delicate pink, pure white, and a deep, rich blue that seems almost black until it catches the moon's rays. In these quiet pools of light, the flowers seem to glow from within, their beauty hypnotic and soothing as the gentle lapping of waves on a summer shore. As the night wears on and the moon reaches its zenith in the sky, Lunaria is bathed in a soft lunar radiance that seems almost palpable. It's as if one could reach out and touch the light itself, feeling its gentle warmth seep into their very being. And so, wrapped in this soothing tranquility, the flowers continue to bloom, filling the garden with a deep, peaceful stillness that is at once calming and uplifting. As you breathe in the sweet scent of Lunaria's moonflowers, your own eyelids grow heavy, your breath slows, and your thoughts quieten. Let go, dear one. Let yourself drift on the gentle tide of this lunar night, carried by its soothing light into a deep and restful sleep, where dreams are as soft as the petals of these enchanted blooms. Deep in the heart of the forest, where ancient trees stood tall and snowflakes gently danced around their branches, there was a small mountain cabin that seemed to be cradled by the silence of the night. The cabin's wooden beams were weathered to a soft silver, its windows reflecting the pale light of the moon like shards of glass. Inside, a fire crackled in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the quiet spaces, as if beckoning the darkness outside into a gentle submission. A pair of snowshoes hung on the wall, their metal runners glinting softly in the firelight, and a small wooden clock ticked away on the mantel with a soothing, steady pulse. It was here that Amelia lived alone, surrounded by books and memories, her days spent writing and reading, her nights lost in the gentle reverie of the forest. As she settled into her favorite chair by the window, the soft silence of the night seemed to seep into her bones, lulling her deeper with each passing moment. The snowfall outside grew heavier now, its gentle whispers weaving a soothing melody that ebbed and flowed like a lullaby, calming the mind and quieting the heart. Outside, the trees creaked softly in the wind, their branches swaying to and fro as if they too were drifting off to sleep, carried on the sweet scent of pine and wood smoke. As Amelia's eyelids began to droop, her thoughts grew hazy, and she felt herself becoming one with the stillness of the cabin, its warmth and peace infusing her like a slow-moving balm. The clock ticked on, marking time in gentle increments as the world outside slipped into slumber, but Amelia's heart remained suspended between wakefulness and sleep, suspended on the soft, quiet breaths that flowed in and out with each passing moment. In the quiet chapel of St. Eluned's, where the soft candlelight cast shadows on the stone floor, weary travelers would often seek refuge from their journeys. The chapel's ancient wooden beams seemed to absorb the weariness of the world outside, and its peaceful atmosphere enveloped each visitor like a gentle blanket. The air was filled with the sweet scent of sandalwood and the faint sound of dripping water, creating an eerie yet soothing melody that seemed to lull even the most restless souls into calmness. As night fell, the chapel's windows would be shrouded in a soft mist, casting the interior in a dreamy, ethereal light, as if the very fabric of reality was being gently veiled. The sound of raindrops pattering against the stained glass above created an otherworldly symphony, and the faint whisper of leaves rustling outside seemed to carry the gentle language of ancient secrets long forgotten by mortal ears. In this sacred sanctuary, time itself appeared to slow, as if the world's haste had been left at the chapel door, and only peace, tranquility, and rest remained within. As one sat in stillness on a pew, surrounded by the whispers of centuries past, it was easy to imagine that the very presence of God's love had settled softly around them, like the quiet lapping of waves against a peaceful shore, gently rocking all troubles into calm submission. The soft creaking of wood, the soft sighs of those seeking solace, blended with the rhythmic beat of one's own heartbeat, as if in perfect harmony with the soothing cadence of the universe itself. And as the stars twinkled like diamonds through the mist-shrouded windows, it was but a gentle whisper away from surrendering to the sweet silken threads of sleep, woven by the soft hands of Morpheus himself. As the sun dipped into the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the landscape, the ferry's engines churned quietly beneath the surface of the water, propelling it across the wide, slow river that flowed like liquid silver through the heart of the land. The air was heavy with the scent of blooming flowers, and the soft lapping of the waves against the hull created a soothing melody that seemed to match the beating of one's own heart. On board, passengers sat in comfortable silence, some gazing out at the tranquil scene unfolding before them, while others settled into quiet reverie, lulled by the gentle rocking motion of the ferry as it glided effortlessly across the water. The riverbank receded slowly, like a misty veil lifting to reveal secrets hidden beneath its surface, and on either side, trees leaned out over the water, their leafy branches stretching towards each other like nature's own tender fingers. A soft breeze stirred, carrying the whispers of ancient stories and forgotten memories, but they remained just beyond the reach of conscious understanding, leaving only a sense of wonder and peace to settle in its wake. As the ferry rounded a bend in the river, the setting sun cast a glittering pathway of light across the water, leading the way through the quiet expanse like a gentle companion guiding one safely home. And now, as the river's edge grew distant, the stars began their slow dance above, twinkling softly to the rhythm of the ferry's engines and the ebb and flow of the tide, until all was bathed in an unearthly light that seemed almost palpable, like a soft mist that wrapped itself around every heart on board. In this serene atmosphere, as the world outside grew quieter and the river's gentle voice soothed the soul, it becomes ever so easy to let go of the day's concerns and allow one's eyelids to grow heavy, like the petals of a flower closing at dusk, and drift slowly towards the comfort of sleep, carried gently by the lulling rhythm of the ferry as it glides smoothly across the water, ever closer to the peaceful shores of slumber. In a small bookshop nestled between old stone buildings, a warm lamp cast a golden glow over the shelves stacked with leather-bound volumes and the soft sheen of new paperbacks, filling the air with the scent of aged pages and the promise of far-off lands. The owner, an elderly woman named Ilara, sat at her desk by the window, watching as the last wisps of daylight faded from the sky, painting the clouds a deep shade of amethyst. As the stars began to twinkle like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, she rose and made her way through the narrow aisles, her feet creaking on the worn floorboards, to a small table by the lamp where a single book lay open, its pages gently swaying in the evening breeze that whispered through the shop. The title of the book was The Language of Leaves, and as Ilara's fingers brushed against the page, she felt an inexplicable sense of peace settle over her, as if the words themselves were weaving a spell of calm around her. Outside, the night grew darker, but within the shop all seemed well, for in this place time itself seemed to slow, and the world beyond the windows receded, leaving only the soft rustle of pages turning, the creaking of the old wooden shelves, and the steady heartbeat of the lamp's gentle warmth. The books on the shelves stood like sentinels, watching over Ilara as she sat by the table, her eyes drifting from the open page to the soft golden light that spilled across the floor, illuminating a small pool of calm in the midst of the quiet, darkening world outside, and with each passing moment the shadows seemed to deepen, drawing all into their gentle fold, until even the stars above appeared to be shining down upon this peaceful sanctuary, guiding all who entered toward rest and repose. As Ilara's eyelids grew heavy, the words on the page began to blur, and she felt herself being drawn down into the quiet depths of the book, where the language of leaves whispered secrets in a soothing voice that seemed to match the rhythm of her own heartbeat, and with each breath the world outside grew farther away, until there was only the soft whisper of pages turning, the gentle warmth of the lamp, and the gentle lapping of the darkness against the shores of her soul. Deep in a valley where a lake lay like a sheet of glass, its surface reflecting the soft hues of twilight, there stood a village so still and quiet it seemed as though time itself had slowed within its borders. The villagers lived in harmony with the lake's gentle rhythms, their days unfolding like lotus flowers blooming on the water's edge, their nights surrendering to the soothing lapping of waves against the shore. They named their village Serenaria, after the serene song of the nightingales that dwelled among its reeds and willows, and though outsiders rarely visited, word of its tranquility spread far and wide. As dusk gathered, the villagers would gather on the shore's edge, watching as the lake's colors changed with each passing moment, from roseate pink to soft mauve, then gradually darkening into indigo's velvet cloak. And it was there, under this star-studded sky, that a figure emerged, an old man with eyes like moss-covered stones, his skin weathered to a soft, silvery grey, and hair as white as the mist that veiled the lake in morning's earliest light. He walked among the villagers, offering small gifts from the lake itself, shells polished by the water's caress, or driftwood adorned with delicate barnacles that shone like tiny jewels. The villagers called him Keeper of the Ripples, for he had spent a lifetime listening to the whispers of the lake and learning its secrets, which he would share in whispered tales passed from ear to ear through the soft stillness of night's long hush. And as his stories wove their gentle spell, the air itself seemed to grow quieter, as though even the wind had leaned in to listen. As the last rays of daylight faded from the city's steel canyons, the night train began its gentle rumble, its engines whispering a soft lullaby to the sleeping concrete below. The train's silver cars seemed to stretch on forever, their rows of seats glowing softly in the moonlight like a constellation of stars come to life. As it chugged out of the station, the night train left behind the din and chaos of daytime, carrying with it instead the dreams and slumbering thoughts of those who'd climbed aboard. It wound its way through the city's darkening outskirts, past deserted factories and silent gardens, where streetlights cast long shadows that seemed to stretch and yawn in time with the train's steady pace. The night train's cars were filled with travelers who'd given up on daytime adventures, office workers who'd spent their lives staring at screens and now craved only the soft murmur of wheels on track, artists who'd lost their muse in the city's bright light but found it again in the gentle darkness of night, children whose bedtime stories had grown too loud but were now hushed into quiet by the rocking motion of the train. As the hours passed, the night train carried its passengers deeper into the countryside, where fields stretched out like dark canvas painted with the soft brushstrokes of constellations above. The air grew cooler and scented with damp earth and new-mown grass, and the train's lights cast a gentle glow on the trees that leaned in to watch it pass, their branches swaying in time with the wheel's rhythmic beat. In this hypnotic dance between light and darkness, the night train glided through the night like a dream itself, carrying all who rode within its cars toward a destination none of them knew, a place where worries were left behind, and sleep's sweet kingdom welcomed all who sought refuge there. As the stars twinkled brighter in the black sky above, the train's engines grew softer still, their whisper now almost imperceptible, until it seemed as though they spoke directly to the hearts of its riders, saying, "Sleep tight, dear ones, the night train is here to carry you home." In a valley hidden behind a veil of whispering trees, there stood an inn that appeared only to those who had wandered far from home, its timbered facade worn smooth as driftwood by the passage of seasons and countless passing strangers. They called it the Whispering Hearth, though none knew for certain how it got that name. Some said it was a blessing whispered to travelers in their sleep, while others claimed it was a gentle warning to turn back from paths they'd already left behind. The air around the inn seemed to vibrate with an almost imperceptible hum of welcome, like the purring of a great engine winding down to silence. Those who stumbled upon its door, lost on moonless nights or drenched by rain's relentless drumbeat, would feel their footsteps slow as they approached, as if drawn by some unseen force into the inn's soft golden light. The fire burning within its hearth seemed to cast shadows that curled like smoke rings into the corners of rooms filled with creaking rocking chairs and lumpy beds made up with linens as white as freshly fallen snow. Though guests might come for shelter from storms or weariness, it was not long before they felt an inexplicable restlessness lift from their shoulders, a soothing peace that came with watching the hours tick away like falling dominoes in a game of slow and intricate patience. In this way, many had stayed on far longer than need required, weeks turning into months as seasons changed outside the windows, and when at last they roused themselves to depart, it was not from any sense of urgency, but rather because their dreams had grown as vivid as reality, and in those quiet hours just before dawn, the inn seemed to whisper softly within their ear, "Now you are free to go." In a small house on a quiet street, where the windows were always slightly ajar to let in the scent of winter's crisp air, snowflakes began to fall indoors. They danced and fluttered, gently settling on the soft furnishings, each one unique and delicate as a feather. At first it was just a few stray flakes, but soon they drifted down in increasing numbers, softly covering the rooms like a layer of white silk. The air grew quiet, as if the very sound of silence itself had seeped into every corner of the house. A faint blue light seemed to emanate from the walls, gentle and soothing as the first whispers of dawn. The fireplace, usually cold and dark, now glowed with a soft, ethereal warmth, its flames dancing like tiny, benevolent spirits. Outside, snowflakes fell gently onto the street, each one melting almost instantly on the warm pavement, but within they clung to every surface, weaving an intricate pattern of white and silver that seemed almost magical. As night deepened, the light from the windows grew softer still, as if it were being filtered through a layer of gossamer fabric. The room became hushed and tranquil, like a dream in which nothing is ever urgent or overwhelming. In this peaceful atmosphere, time itself began to slow, becoming fluid and malleable. Hours passed without the need for clocks or calendars, each one dissolving into the next as effortlessly as a snowflake on warm skin. As the last remnants of day succumbed to night's gentle whisper, the house grew quiet, its secrets kept safe within walls that seemed to hum with the softest, most soothing music, the lullaby of winter itself. And now, dear listener, let this gentle stillness envelop you, guiding your breathing into a steady, soothing rhythm. As the snowflakes continue their peaceful dance outside, and the room whispers softly on, as the last wisps of daylight faded from the rooftops of Willowdale, the town's gentle evening lullaby began to weave its way through the stillness, a soft serenade that only the most attentive ears could catch. The melody was an old one, passed down through generations of mothers and grandmothers who would sing it to their children as they drifted off to sleep, but somehow, on this particular evening, it seemed to have taken on a new quality, as if the very houses themselves were humming in harmony with the singer's gentle voice. As the notes floated out across the rooftops, they merged with the scent of baking bread wafting from the ovens below, and the soft chirping of crickets, adding their own sweet counterpoint to the song. The streets grew quieter, as if even the trees themselves were swaying in time, their leaves rustling softly like 1,000 tiny wings beating in unison. And then, just as the final refrain was about to fade away into silence, a tiny window high up on Willow Street opened, and a small hand reached out, guiding a candle flame onto a windowsill, where it danced and swayed like a beacon, casting shadows that seemed to take on lives of their own. The light grew stronger, its gentle warmth spreading across the rooftops like a soothing balm, calming every anxious heart and lulling all who listened into a deep and peaceful slumber. As the song's final notes whispered away on the breeze, the candle's flame began to flicker more slowly, its shadows growing longer and darker until they seemed to merge with the night itself. And as the townspeople breathed in the sweet scent of sleep, their eyelids grew heavy, their breathing slowed, and their dreams became one with the gentle lullaby that still floated through the air, guiding them down into a deep and restful sleep. Now, as the last whispers of the song fade away, allow your own breathing to slow, your eyelids to grow heavy, and your mind to drift on the soft tide of the evening's peace. On a small island that drifted across the warm waters of the sea, where the sun dipped into the horizon and painted the sky with hues of rose and amber, a gentle village slumbered beneath the rustling palms. The air was alive with the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the soft lapping of waves against the shore. As twilight descended, the villagers would retire to their homes, lulled by the soothing melodies of crickets and the occasional distant song of a nightingale. Amidst this serene landscape, an ancient legend whispered through the ages spoke of a mystical tree that stood sentinel on the island's highest peak. They called it the Dream Weaver, for its leaves were said to carry the whispers of slumberers across the world, gathering their deepest desires and soothing their most troubled dreams. The villagers believed that on quiet nights like these, when the moon was full and the stars shone bright, one could hear the soft rustling of the tree's leaves as they wove a tapestry of restful dreams for all who lay beneath its branches. As the night deepened, the island itself seemed to sway gently to the rhythm of the waves, a soothing motion that calmed the mind and eased the body into a peaceful repose.